welcome back to the Wild Thoughts Pod. I'm your co-host, Afi.
And I'm your co-host, Kat.
Woo! We're back again, as usual. Today's episode is all about student life versus work life. So we're going to be diving into those topics, the differences, maybe similarities too. And yeah, just having a discussion about that.
Yeah, it's going to be probably a quick episode. We always say that, but it's going to be a quick one, okay?
Yeah, this one will not be super long.
Yeah, for sure. So, I forgot we did question of the week. So let's get into that. Okay, so our question of the week was, which one of these applies to you? And we had a poll with student, worker, or both. So 23% of our listeners are students, 62% are workers, and 15% are both. Okay, so this is actually super interesting because I feel like on our side, like you're kind of both. And I'm on the worker side, so we kind of have an idea of like the differences. Little bit.
Yeah, true. But you've also worked while being a student too, so you also know what it's like to do that.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I felt like it was like kind of in between breaks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So this is going to be interesting because a lot of you listening probably already recognize some of the differences, but it's, while I was researching, I found it like really cool to like point certain things out that I didn't really think of when I started working.
And I feel like it's also different for like everyone, because some people will, I feel like it's the way you define it, you know what I mean? Like some people will experiment more in their student life, but some people will do the same exact thing too in their work. Like it just really depends like how you are and things like that. But in general, there are some like common aspects that like when you're a student, this is your routine or whatever.
Yeah. And the first thing I want to say is, like, I know that a lot of people that are working full time are always like, oh, I wish I was still a student.
That's true.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I wish I was still a student. It was so much easier as a student, blah, blah, blah. I do not agree with that. I prefer working. First of all, I feel like even though there is stress in work, I was way more stressed as a student because I found like I was being graded. There was a lot of pressure to graduate and to get a good job after you graduate, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I was always studying. Yeah. Like I didn't give myself a break. And it's also my personality where I'm like always like go. But at the same time, I was like, why would I put myself under that stress again?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I noticed too. It's like when you're a student, there's no, of course you should to have a healthy lifestyle, schedule breaks and have off times, but it's hard because it's always ongoing, right? Like when you come home, you have to work on the project. Like there's never really like a set on and off. Whereas when you're working, of course, you know, maybe sometimes you're doing extra hours, but usually like you're doing your 9 to 5 or whatever scheduled hours you have. And then you can like not think about it usually. So it's nice to have those like boundaries, which you don't have always as a student. So
exactly. Okay, so that was a little blur, but let's get into it. So we have kind of a structure here. So first I want to start with like learning. So as a student, obviously, like Afi said, it's always ongoing and you're always like taking new classes, progressing in your classes, because there could be like different phases of that class. And like, I feel like as a student, you're kind of forced to keep learning and keep working towards something. And once you start working, I feel like majority of people don't like try to learn something new. They're just like, okay, this is my job. Let me just do my job. You know what I mean?
True. I feel like though, when you're a student though, I feel like you don't appreciate the learning all the time because it's like you said, kind of like forced, right? It's like you're following the classes you have to take and you're just doing it to get the best grade that you can. Obviously, like some people, or if you're taking an interesting class, you're gonna want to learn, but at the end of the day, like the pressure is mostly on the grade and like doing well. So sometimes like you won't necessarily actually be like benefiting from the class. You're just gonna be like copy pasting or like looking at your notes last minute and just trying to like complete the project. Whereas work, although I agree, like you're not doing as many different things. I feel like you take away a lot in terms of like skills and like lessons and things like that. And you're actually processing because you're applying it, right? Whereas like in school, it's more theoretical. So you're like applying, well, maybe not exactly what you learned, but you're actually doing the actions and motions and you're like learning more about the actual like skills and topics.
Yeah, agreed. And also on that, it kind of feels like when you're working, because you're doing like certain responsibilities related to your job, there's not really any I don't
creativity.
want to say it like this, but it feels like sometimes there's not like excitement because you're just
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over. And yes, you could be progressing to a promotion or like even if you want to switch roles in something, but like as a student, you're changing courses like every 13 weeks. So
True.
there's always
Yeah.
something to look forward to. Like if you're not having a good time in one class, you're like, okay, by the end of the 13 weeks, like I'm done with it. I can just move on to something
Yeah.
more interesting, more exciting. Whereas work, it's like you need to find something to excite you or else it becomes like a boring routine over and over and
Redundant.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think when you're a student, usually I feel like you'll have more space for creativity because it's like it's more short, like your classes are more short term and you can change around and you can decide where you want to go in your life. Like obviously in your work life, like you can change your decisions too, but once you're set in a position, like you're kind of expected to do that position
Yeah.
for like a certain, at least a year or in that realm of time, which is like you said, it's like kind of, it can get boring if you don't have something to excite you because you're doing like very similar tasks
Yeah.
every day. So
I feel like because of this, a lot of people that are working kind of feel like they get stuck in a rut or like don't know what to do because they're bored of their
yeah.
routine and they feel like they're not really doing anything of value. When in reality, like all they have to do is like sign up for a class or like incorporate a new
Yeah.
hobby just to like I feel like when you're working, it's like you have to put in the effort to keep things exciting, whereas in school
Yeah.
it's always changing, so it's like you always have something coming
True.
up.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like when you're working, I feel like you don't prioritize your hobbies as much because like work takes up a lot of your energy and then you're confused about like, because this is like the after, after you're done your schooling or after you've discovered yourself, whatever. And now it's like you're trying to figure out, is this right for me? Like, is this a good fit?
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying work, you're like focused on like, okay, how do I enjoy work? So it's like, I feel like you don't have time to focus on things you actually like your hobbies and like your interests on the side. Whereas when you're a student, you can kind of like do that, or like you're doing your interests throughout your day, hanging out with your
Yeah.
friends and
You
like
can
things
experiment
like that.
more. That's pretty much it for like learning. I feel like
Learning,
just as
yeah.
advice to someone who's working, try to, like I said, take a class or like watch a
Yeah.
YouTube video or a TED talk, just something that's gonna keep you progressing
Like
and
your
learning and
interests.
growing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And it's up to you to like change it up, and you don't have to have like a boring work life or even a boring student life. Like it doesn't have to be super like, okay, I'm just going to go to my classes and that's it. Like, you could get involved, and you can get involved in your work life too. You can maybe, do like extracurricular activities after work,
Yeah.
like take a class. You want to take like a boxing class, like any type of class. So just keep it fun and yeah, try to have fun just like you did when you were a student or before
Yeah.
you started working. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point to say where like everyone is different. So like some things
Yeah.
that we're saying right now may not apply to you.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
for example, like I said, I prefer working than going to school just because of the
Yeah.
stress levels. But like let's move on to like freedom and responsibility. A lot of the times when you're in school, you have a lot more freedom to do stuff. So that's a
Yeah.
positive to that. And like but at the same time, because you have so much freedom, a lot of the times if you're the type of person that like likes to work and wants to see yourself succeed in whatever you're doing, a lot of the times all your free time is going to go to doing homework or studying.
Yeah,
And like
true.
you feel guilty for not doing that even though you have a lot of free time to do other stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. It's crazy because, like, that's why I feel like you have a lot of free time as a student, and you do, like, you're more flexible with your hours because you're not restricted to like a certain specific schedule all the time.
Yeah.
But it also feels like you don't have any time because you're always thinking about, oh shit, I have to do this, I have to do this assignment.
And I feel like you're panicking so much that just panicking is taking up your time because you're
Of
like,
your
I don't
time,
even know
yeah.
what to start. Like,
And you
know what I
can't
mean?
relax. It's like
Yeah.
it's stressful. Being
It
a
is.
student and working too, like, there are different reasons as to why they're both stressful, but yeah.
Exactly. And then like another thing that you get with being a student is like you have a lot more vacation time because like at work you're restricted to like whatever the benefits are in terms of vacation. You might get like 2 weeks with
Yeah.
some sick days, but like as a student you're controlling your life basically. You can take
Yeah.
a semester off, go travel. You can not show up to class. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot more
exactly.
freedom in that sense also.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote that too. it's just like you have bigger, longer vacations, like your summer break, your spring break, all that. Even me, and like I feel like if you're a student and you're going into the workforce soon, take your time to relax before you do that. Like, don't jump into it. I even had a friend, she was telling me, like, Afi, you've been in school for this many years. Like, you can't, like, don't work right away because you're not going to be able to take that time off, like, often, like, that opportunity. Like, you can, but it might be a curve in your path that's, like, harder to, like, fix. So it's, like, enjoy the time you have now, take a break, and, like, you know, you can be burnt out from school too. Like, it's a lot. Going to school for like 3-4 years or whatever time. And if you were in school all the way till university, like, whoa.
Yeah, that's one of the things I probably regret after school, because I was also in the co-op program. So like I was forced to continuously take a semester of school, then work, semester work.
Yeah,
and like
that's a lot.
I didn't have a break, and then I immediately got a job like right when I graduated. So like I don't regret my job obviously, but I regret not having the time to just do what I wanted.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because it's true, because you graduated before the pandemic even started, right?
No, I graduated during.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
that kind of, okay, it's also not completely your fault, because I feel like the pandemic, like, it forced you to have to, because you couldn't really travel. You could take time off, but what were you supposed to do, you know?
There was also that like risk that I was feeling, that like if I don't look for a job now, I feel like everyone is looking for a job right now because we can't go anywhere. So like if I don't start looking, then I won't get a job.
Exactly. And I think like the job market wasn't like, it wasn't doing well because of because of everything. So that's definitely scary. So I feel so kind of I'm sorry for everyone that had to like graduate during the pandemic right when it happened, and like
it was rough.
Yeah.
But also I graduated I graduated in the winter, so it's like, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I had friends who graduated in spring, so then they took the summer off. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I hate the winter. I'm not going to go outside, so I might as well work.
I go sledding every day. But no, definitely. And, like, that's not to say that when you start working, you can't take any time off more than a week. Like, of course, those are up to you. And you can quit your job and be like, yo, or you can take a leave of absence, whatever you want. But I'm just saying, you have more pressure on you, I think. Like, more, because you also have more responsibility because you're in like adult life or whatever, so you're not as likely to like feel comfortable taking those times off. So
which is one thing that it's like everyone needs to learn, that you're allowed to take time off, and don't be nervous to do so if you're working, because like you need a break. Like there's so many times that you're gonna feel burnt out because like you have a big project to do, or like it's busy season in whatever industry you're in. Like you need to take that time off.
Tax season now is dying. Like
tax
accountants.
season, all you accountants.
Oh my god.
Thankfully I did not work during tax season. That would have been rough.
Oh my god. I don't know what that's like, thankfully.
It's like I've heard horror stories.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, business is booming too during that time, but
that's
it's definitely stressful for accountants.
Another thing I noted is when you start work, your weekends feel like weekends. Because like when you're in school, again, you could have an exam on a weekend and then you're like studying the whole weekend and then there's nothing going on for you. Yeah. I don't know why. The amount of times that I've had 2 exams on a Saturday, turn off.
I've been having tests on like Sundays, which like, okay, it's not super long and it's like open book, which is fine, but it's just kind of like,
why? It ruins your
like
weekend.
Why? Yeah. Exactly. And like, even though like when I'm still a student, so I feel like I know when it's Saturday and I know when it's Sunday. Like it feels like that because my parents are home. Like the dynamic is different. Like you just know when it's a Saturday, and like you want to like have fun on your Saturdays and Sundays.
Exactly.
So you don't want to be studying. But but a lot of universities don't have exams on weekends. Like a lot of French university, I think they were like, "What? You have a test?" Like once I think I had a final on a Sunday, and they were like, like,
there's been so many semesters that I had like 3 exams on the weekend. Like that's insane.
3. Oh my god.
Like 2 on a Saturday, like, 1 on a Sunday.
That is not okay.
It's disgusting.
No. At least like during the week, please.
So another downside to working and freedom is your work might set your schedule. and that may not be your optimal time of working. For example, like
Yeah.
I'm an early bird, so like if I could have started work at 8 and be done by 2, that would be
Ooh,
amazing for me. But other
that sounds
people,
cool.
yeah, other
Yeah.
people can start work at like 3, finish at 9 because they prefer working later. Like
True.
flex hours, it's really hard to
Yeah.
find that intensely, because at the same time, a lot of your work is going to be codependent on other coworkers. So like you need to have core hours in which
Yeah.
you're working all together. So that's like a
Yeah.
bit of a downside to working, I find.
For sure. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But in order to like appeal to everyone and make sure you can all work together, yeah. That would be cool though if you could choose your hours. But then
Yeah.
it might make it hard to like work with other people. But then I was also thinking like I don't know if this relates to this point, but my friends who are working full time, it's like because for me as a student, as a university student, you know, your schedule is more flexible. Like usually you'll have Fridays off, and like depending on how many classes you take, you can have a lot of days off if you like
Yeah.
squish your class into 2, you know. And so I'll be free to like hang out and stuff during the week. But then my friend, like let's say I want to go to brunch, they can't go to brunch on like Tuesday
Nope.
morning. Only Saturday and Sunday.
they
But then
can
I
if
work.
they take the day off.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like, oh, you're not gonna ask,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
take you the day off so we can go to brunch? And Saturday and Sunday, it's like as a part-time worker, those are usually the days you'll be working. So it's like so conflicting, and I'm like, I hate
Yeah.
that.
I know. Ugh, it's the worst.
But I think once you are like once I start working, then I'm gonna be able to coordinate my schedules properly well, because
Yeah.
the hours will be similar. But like as someone who's not, then with friends who are working full
Yeah.
time, it's like,
But it again, it also depends on the industry you're in. Because
Yes,
if you're like,
exactly.
say in nursing, you could be working
Yeah.
weekends and you could be working
Yeah.
at night. So then you're
12
not gonna wanna
hour
hang
shifts
out.
more.
Yeah.
Damn, that's tough.
It's
yeah.
rough.
Adulting.
Yeah.
Adulting for real.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. Kind of like I was saying before, like when you're working, you have a lot more responsibility that ties you to other people. So like you can't, like as a student, you could stay up late to finish your assignment the day before,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's on you. But if you have a
Yeah.
deadline to meet at work, like you got to finish it at that deadline, or else
Yeah.
the people that have to take that on next are not going to be able to finish their job.
Yeah, and like within your work hours too, because you don't want to be working like
Exactly.
so with as a student, because it's always ongoing. It's
Yeah.
like it's your time, right? But for working, definitely, and you're not getting paid if, well, I'm assuming if you're doing
Yeah.
after, like if it was your responsibility to have it done during your work hours and you didn't, then you're just
Yeah.
working more, and then it's like, nah.
Yeah, one thing is like I know a lot of people that work out of their work hours just to finish whatever they have to do. I will never do that. I'm sorry. Like I'll stay
If
late.
you're not paying me, bitch.
Yeah. Like I'll stay late to like finish something if like I was working on something at 5 and I just want to finish it. But
Yeah.
to restart working at 7 or 8 to finish something.
Yeah,
Work-life balance,
I've heard
people.
about. Yeah, I've heard about that too, but that
Yeah.
sucks, because it's like.
But it's
I
also,
also
like if you're better at working at night, that's when they do it. Like
Yeah.
I cannot work at night. Like that.
But then I
wouldn't
just wouldn't
benefit
work-
anyone.
I would like take time off during work, and like let's say like and then put it like the 3 hours later at night. I'm like, I'm not working extra. I'm working the requirement, and that's it.
But a lot of the times people do that if they have like ongoing meetings all day and they couldn't do their
Yeah.
work, like stuff like that. I understand. But like willingly doing it just to finish something, I couldn't.
Yeah, but it's like, why are you scheduling all these meetings when I have to finish my
Yeah,
work?
boundaries. Learn how to say no. Cancel your
It's
meeting.
it's like in university when the pandemic started, so there were like online lectures or things like that. They would like they would give us like video lectures, but then there would also be like a Zoom class. But I'm like,
Yeah, it makes no
aren't
sense.
you supposed to,
Or
it's
like they
that.
started
I'm just
giving.
what?
I found they started giving a lot more work to do just because we were at home.
Yeah, exactly. Like they
Like-
thought we had it easy. Like, bitch, my mental health is like,
Yeah, like I'm
dying
like,
here.
Literally, I'm like drowning right now.
And you thought I had it easy. Like, okay. You thought I
man.
wanted to be stuck home and there's like a virus spreading. Like,
Literally, I'm
no,
like, I have
sir.
anxiety, and you're just
Yeah.
adding fuel to the fire.
yeah, it was, no. Professors, have some empathy. Come on.
Yeah, honestly.
I kind of want to talk about like the mental health aspect too, like versus when you're a student versus work. Like when you're a student, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to do well, and you like compare yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like your friends are sharing their grades, and if if you struggle like academically, let's say you're like neurodivergent, like you have ADHD or autism or anything like that, and you're not like neurotypical, then I feel like the educational system is like not catered for you to be successful.
100%.
It's very like traditional, you know, and that's really like hard on people's self-esteem. Even like I know it's affected me. I'm sure it's affected plenty of people, even like neurotypical people, I'm sure, because it's like a lot to compare yourself and not like think you're the one doing things wrong or you're lazy or whatever, when in fact it's not you, it's the system. So I feel like it like affects your identity and who you think you are and just your self-confidence and self-worth and all of that. So that's one thing that I will say that's like sucks when you're a student, because it's just the pressure's so high to do well and to like get into good schools and like do well so you can get good jobs, when in reality most jobs don't look at your grades anyways.
Exactly.
Obviously it feels, but it just sucks that like I know there needs to be a grading system because that's how they categorize like who's doing well and like whatever, but I don't know, it just sucks. And then in work I feel like there's not pressure in terms of like education obviously and like academically, but there's a lot of pressure. I feel like you have more responsibilities like financially too, because you have more financial freedom, so you're expected to like take care of more things, and like with like a full-time job or whatever comes like adult responsibilities like moving out and not depending on other people. So it's like I feel like you're less dependent on others when you start working.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
In a way.
And I think you're like at work, you have to perform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to show how you're the best at like, so there's always like this pressure of like your skill level is being measured differently at work than in school.
There's a pressure at work because you could be fired at any moment. You can't be fired at school.
That's so scary.
You can fail, but then you have to retake it. Like it's not like you're kicked out unless like some shit goes down. But like at work, it's the pressure's there to be like either you're gonna get fired or you're never gonna progress in your career because you're not doing what you need to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And like firing too is traumatic because like if someone's been fired before, and like that could be traumatizing for them to start a new job and feel confident. So but
I feel like if you're fired, it's like it has to take something big to fire you, or they just don't have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. But sometimes I feel like it's for like, it depends. Yeah, it depends what type of job. Yeah, exactly. It depends what type of job you're talking about.
Depends
but like
your boss too, if they're not like being discriminated.
Exactly. Like some people, like exactly. Like what if it's for discrimination reasons or like just random shit, you know, that has nothing to do with your actual abilities? Then I think that can be traumatizing. Yeah. But yeah, both type of lifestyles have different types of pressures that come with it, and like mental health issues, like you said, like even during the pandemic, like knowing when to turn on and off, boundaries, working hours that you shouldn't be working, not having like your own space to work in, like just so much stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of tied towards that, I want to talk about progression and feedback, because I feel like you were saying, in school you're graded, and like I feel like in school it's not very, but sometimes it's more straightforward to see like, oh, I got an 80 on the test. Was it because maybe I didn't study enough, or like I didn't really understand the concepts? And then you can go talk to a teacher and they'll give you that direct feedback. And I feel like sometimes when you're in a work environment, you don't necessarily know how well you're doing unless you ask, or unless your boss is very transparent with the team and like gives feedback constantly.
Yes.
So I feel like that can be like a very daunting experience, because like you don't know if you should be doing more, if you're doing something right or not, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, at school, because you're doing assignments, you're getting that direct feedback, and like you associate certain levels to your grades, right? Like, okay, this is excellent, this is good, this isn't good, whatever. So you kind of know the feedback, or your teachers will write comments, and you can go ask them questions because it's open to that. Whereas at work, like because I'm someone too that I like feedback. Like if I like constructive feedback as long as you're not insulting me.
Yeah.
And just if I'm doing well, like I like to be told like, okay, you're doing well. But I feel like it does lack sometimes in the workplace because it's not as often. Like, oh, maybe they're doing like an evaluation like every 6 months or at the end of the year. But that's like that's not a lot. That's like once or twice per year. So I feel like or maybe your boss will indirectly be like, oh, good job, no, no. But I feel like there should be more. I don't know. It'd be nice to have like
Yeah.
more moments where you get feedback at work. 'Cause sometimes you don't know if you're doing things right or not.
Exactly. Like for an example, where I'm working right now, I have a lot of meetings with my boss just to be like, it's a one-on-one meeting just to like update each other or like ask each other questions. And a lot of the times in those meetings, they'll say like, oh, you're doing a great job, keep it up.
Yeah.
Or like they'll give feedback there, and that's like kind of, it was weekly, now it's kind of bi-weekly, which is good. So I feel like a lot.
Oh, that's
of,
good.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of workplaces should incorporate that, or just like bosses in general, just be mindful that like your employees need feedback in order to A, stay motivated, and B, to know if they should be doing more, if they should like do something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And just to like feel good in what they're doing and their position, because like you also want to show that you somewhat care about your employee, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of places like they'll do like, oh, like what are your goals? Like they'll make it more personal. Like, what are your goals and how can we help you with those? So that's nice. Like I feel like that's a nice way to make them feel like heard and like wanted, respected, and like an individual, you know, like an actual human being, and not just like, oh, the company's benefiting from me, but like what am I getting from them? So
yeah, definitely. Exactly. And I feel like a lot of the times at work, you're kind of like, not on your own, but kind of on your own. Like you're expected to be very autonomous unless you yourself ask for help. Whereas in school, there's always people around you to help you. It could be like other students, or it could be your professor that gives feedback and like asks you to come to look at your tests, like stuff like that. So like
I feel like at school it's like it's not shameful to ask for it because you're learning, whereas at work you're supposed to be kind of like knowing what you're doing.
Exactly.
So it's like if you're asking to like if you're asking maybe at the beginning, but then eventually it's like it looks like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you're stupid or whatever. So,
and like a lot of times when you're starting a new job, you're afraid to ask questions, but like you should be asking questions in order to do your job properly, because you might not fully understand what you need to be doing, but like your boss knows.
Exactly. And I feel like there's a misconception, like when you're in your work life doesn't mean you've mastered everything. Like you're always going to be learning. You don't know everything. Like
exactly.
I don't think we should treat it as like, oh, your student life you're just like learning, and in your work like you have to be set and just know everything. Like it's you're learning in a different type of environment, and you're just in a different stage of your life, and you're making money and you're taking what you learn too, but you're still allowed to experiment and grow and like improve yourself, you know? It's not like
and don't be afraid and don't be afraid to say that you don't know how to do something, and like ask for like training or something. Like for example, for me, I have to start doing analytics, let's say, with Google Analytics, and I took the Google course to learn what everything is. That doesn't mean I understand it. So like I told my boss, and I'm like, and my manager, I'm like, listen, like I don't really understand how to interpret this. So maybe if someone can teach me how to, and then I can do it on my own, blah, blah, blah. So like that's a good way to like also show initiative and show that you actually care what you're doing. So like don't be afraid. Yeah,
and you're being honest, and like that'll help your mental health. Like you're asking for help, and it's okay to ask. Like it doesn't mean anything. You're being honest. It's actually, I feel like it shows confidence too, because you're not afraid to be like, oh, I don't know all of this right away, but I'm willing to learn. If someone can just like assist me, then I'll like keep up with it and be able to eventually do it on my own, you know? So
and you're also not wasting your time or the company's time, because like if you don't understand something, you're spending 3 hours trying to understand one thing. Oh my God.
And the anxiety that would come with it. Like I'd be like,
exactly.
And you would be spending all these extra hours that maybe you're not even paid for, because you weren't honest with yourself and with your boss, that like you just needed a little bit of help. Like I don't think anyone expects people to have it all figured out. Like nobody has it all figured out, not even your bosses. So
let's move on to kind of the last block that I kind of thought of, and it was building relationships. So I feel like at school it's 100% easier to build friendships or find friends more easily because like you're surrounded by people that are kind of close to the same age as you or and have similar interests. You're all like kind of grouped into the same whatever. Well, like what's the word? Like
same environment.
Environment.
Like,
Thank
environment?
you.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're grouped in the same environment and you're all kind of like struggling together, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's
literally.
exactly. So it's like easier
trauma
to build
bonding.
Exactly. I was going to say it's easier to build a bond off of that and kind of like build friendships because it's like again, you have similar interests, so it's like way easier to click. Whereas at work, you can be with coworkers that are like of different ages, and it does take more effort to establish a relationship because most people are not there to make friends. They're just like, I'm here to do my job and that's it.
I'm here to get paid and I'm leaving. Like, it's true. I feel like when you're in uni and like just college or whatever, high school, you know, those are when you make your like group of friends. You're bonding over, like you said, like maybe similar interests because you're discovering your like path and what you want to do later on. You're like, you know, you're socializing, like you're socializing more because that's like in your 20s, like that's one of your priorities too, you know, to go out to events, maybe parties, hang out with your other friends, and maybe through them you'll meet people. Like you're just always surrounding yourself in like social like events and things like that. Whereas when you're working, you want to keep a certain boundary too between your coworkers, because I feel like also like the competitiveness or like jealousy things, and sometimes I don't know, I feel like it's hard to make friendships. It is and it's not, but it can get tricky because people, you know, you don't want to step on anyone's toes. And how do you, because like, I don't know.
Yeah. I also kind of thought of like, I feel like work relationships sometimes can be very superficial because it's just that. It's like you're just friends at work, but you don't really hang out outside of work.
Yeah, exactly. You're just friends at work, and also like what you talk about usually is work related stuff, or like, you know, you're not gonna always.
That I'm gonna disagree with because I feel like sometimes if you're like super close, let's say with someone at work, but they're still just a work friend, I feel like it's easier for people to just spill all their drama.
True,
because they're like, you're like a third party, you're not going to be involved in this, so let me tell you and see what you think.
Okay, yeah, I think if you build a close enough bond and it's become like you trust this person and you can actually consider them like more than a work friend or a work friend but someone you can confide in, then definitely. But I think at the beginning stages when you don't know anyone and you're starting, well, you like start with work things and then later on it probably evolves to like more. Yeah. But I think you can make friends regardless. But I think when you're in a work setting, it's like, you know, you're supposed to be professional or whatever.
Yeah. I think there's more effort that needs to be done in order to build a relationship. Like you have to consciously be like, okay, let me not talk about work. Let me ask about their weekend or like stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then also some people, because they're coming out of like school or whatever, they already have like their friends and stuff, so they might not be looking to make friends, and they just want to do their work and like, you know, or maybe they're dreading work and they don't want anyone talking to them. Like it depends on the personality too, but yeah, for sure.
But like I was saying, like it's heavily dependent on your environment, because like for example, I worked at a job that like, let's say there was a lot of older generation people around me. There were some young people, but it was mostly an older generation. And like I felt like yes, I could talk to them, but like I didn't have anything to say because they were talking about their kids all the time, and I'm like, their kids are my age, so it's a bit weird. And like I felt like I didn't have as much confidence in that environment because I couldn't contribute to their conversations. And like
100%,
and they, I think once they made a comment about it, they're like, you're never like sitting with us at lunch. Cause like at the time I would go outside with the other interns to eat because it was nice outside. I wanted to eat outside. Yeah. But because of that, we would spend the whole lunch outside and we'd just come back to work. And the older generation would be like, oh, how come you guys never sit with us? And I'm like, I have nothing
because we don't have kids. No, exactly. Yeah. I feel like, exactly. And also like, it's not always, it really depends, like I said, on the person, but majority, like, you don't have the same sense of humor. You don't know what's going, like, the trends are not the same, like, the lingo could be different.
Exactly, and I'm not saying that it's, like, impossible to be friendly with them, but it's gonna take a lot longer than, like, 4 months for me to build a relationship with you.
You can exactly, and you can have like that cool like older individual that's just like up with everything, and just like, you know, there's always that person, but in general, it's just like where you're at, where your mind is at is so different, so that your conversations are so different. So it's like what you would find interesting, maybe they won't find interesting. Like, what are you talking about? And then like, you know, like they're talking about their children, and like you can't relate, and you don't want to talk about children.
And I'm like, I don't know what to say. They're like complaining about their kids. I'm like, well, I do that. Like,
yeah, you're like, I am the kid. I feel you.
Oh my God,
for sure.
But yeah, I think like right now we're both in a situation where we're kind of surrounded by coworkers that are like in similar ages than us.
Yes.
So, like, it's easier. It's easier to talk with people that way, and like, and kind of like, again, like I feel like more confident where I'm working now, because like everyone has similar interests to me. They're all like kind of the same age as me, so it's like easier to like build a social relationship rather than just strictly work.
100%. That's very true. Even me, like now where I'm working, they are around the same age. Some people are younger, so sometimes like, but I don't realize it, because in my head I'm like, oh, we're the same. They're just like a couple years, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like we'll be talking about a trend, I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, oh damn, like I'm not that old, but it's just that there is that it does create certain differences. Like there are trends that you may not know about, or things, and I'm like, what,
oh my God, you know what I found out?
Your priorities are different.
Because usually when I'm working, or like when I'm in a new friendship or something, I'm always the youngest. We hired someone new, and I'm not the youngest. They're a year younger than me.
Okay, go Kathy.
So I'm like, ooh, I'm not the youngest anymore.
You're an oldie now.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
But exactly, I know, doesn't it feel good to like be older? Like it feels good.
But the thing is like a lot of people tell me I do have a more mature personality, so they don't realize that I'm younger. But then like some things, like exactly like you said, like I'll say something from TikTok, and like coworkers that are only like 2 years older than me, they're like, what?
They're like, what is that? Yeah, exactly. What does that mean? No, same.
But yeah, I think like it's possible to have relationships at work. It just takes more work to do so.
Exactly. And yeah, it just depends on their vibe, their personality, and it depends on you too. Like, do you have more, are you have an older soul? Like, are you like that type of person that you can like connect on that type of stuff? Or or you just like, no, don't want to hear it, don't want to hear about your kids. It's okay, I wouldn't want to hear about anyone's kids.
Man, I was like, what do I say to this?
Oh yeah.
But it's also like, again, it's the environment that you're in. Like if you actually like your job, because at that point I didn't like my job, so I was kind of like leaning on people that were my age to kind of complain at the same time.
It's true. And you don't want to be telling like the people who have been there and enjoy their job and this like their career, like I don't know.
No, also it's not like, because I don't know who's listening to this, but it was nothing against the actual people. It was like I hated accounting. So
no,
it was not like, it was just not, I didn't hate accounting. Let me say that. Hold on.
It just wasn't your preferred career choice. It just
caused me, and it caused me so much stress, even though I was putting so much work in and not seeing results, that it just like,
it didn't make sense.
So I didn't hate the people, in case you're listening to this. You guys were fun.
No.
But
exactly. Don't worry. But also I feel like you were saying how sometimes if you're expressing, you want to express to the younger coworkers that like, oh, you weren't enjoying this. Like, older people usually have more of a tradition. Like they'll be like, oh, just do it. Like, what
just
do you mean?
It.
Like,
get over it.
Yeah, you know, they'll like, they're not
while I'm crying in the bathroom. I'll get over it.
Exactly. I know, literally, because like in general, our generation, we are the ones that have become more just aware, self-awareness, and whereas the older generations, it's not their fault entirely. It's just that they didn't delve into that. They're just more traditional, more would just like suck it up and do it. So it's hard sometimes to relate on those aspects.
Exactly.
One thing was that like I feel like I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about like the educational system, but I feel like sometimes because it's so traditional, it can affect maybe your creativity, but you do have more freedom to be creative, but the system itself doesn't always like applaud you for that. Like you have to, you're kind of more, you know, like stuck in a box. So there's only certain things that you know you can study or whatever. But yeah, in general, that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mentioned
Okay, so
everything,
what's
yeah.
your one takeaway from, because we
Oh
forgot
my god,
to,
why
we
did
were doing this.
I knew you were gonna ask me this. I was gonna write it down, then I forgot. My one takeaway is that you don't have to necessarily create like a strict line between work and student life. You can do what you were doing in student life into your work life and still be discovering who you are and all of that, and you still are. So it doesn't mean that once you hit work life that you're just like this full-on adult that has to do everything on their own, you know? Just continue your journey. Like, it's
I
just
love that.
a continuation. Yeah.
Nice.
How about you, Kathy?
I think for me, I'm gonna go with the learning aspect, that when we're working, we have to keep educating ourselves and keep learning, even if it doesn't relate to what we're actually doing, just to kind of like keep our mind challenged and keep growing as an individual.
Yeah.
So like 100%, like I want to start taking classes or doing like certificates. You know what I mean? Like I just want to keep learning.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Love. Okay, amazing.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was short and sweet. We kept it short. I was checking the time. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys like when we do short episodes and just like we're very informative and we get to the point. I feel like a lot of people like that, so you're welcome.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're welcome.
But other than that, subscribe to our channel if you guys like what we're giving you, and leave a like on this video, comment, like us on, what am I saying? Follow us on the podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Wild Thoughts Pod, and follow us individually. We'll have everything linked down below. And
follow us. I feel like we're like, follow us.
give us feedback on everything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And other than that, I hope you guys are enjoying season 5. We have 2 episodes left after this, so very exciting.
Oh my god.
5 seasons, Afi.
We're gonna be on to 60 episodes and 70. Oh, that's crazy.
Oh my god, wait. We're like,
we have to celebrate our 1 year. When is it? It's in
it
like
passed.
April?
It literally passed. It was March 1st.
Wait, what? Really?
We posted our first episode on March 1st, but then we waited a bit and then posted it in April.
Oh my god, why did I think it was like in April? Ooh, shit. Okay, we'll
celebrate our 100th episode. How about that?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I can't believe it's been a year though. What?
I know.
Whoa.
I know.
Shit.
So yeah, I
got
hope
through
you
the
guys...
pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. This is our therapy session, honestly.
It is. It really is.
But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.